right, we're back in this video, which we're going to show you how to apply the air dry fillers that are in your kit. So, let's just say you're repairing this bolster and you have some scratches, some fine damage in there. You're going to take the sandpaper after you have prepped it, like we showed you in the previous video with the silicone remover and the leather prep. And then you're going to wet sand this area once it's dry. You're trying to achieve as smooth an area as possible, take down any high spots. Here we have a little bit of a dig type of a damage, so we're going to fix that in a minute. So, let's just say there was some fine scratches or cracks. You take the XR10, apply that to that, and you rub it in. You want to try to make this smooth it out. You don't want high spots, just basically trying to work it into the surface. This is going to fill in all the scratches on the surface and provide a nice even surface so that when we sand it, it'll be nice and even. So you just work that in. You try to drag it smooth, work it in. Keep it moving, and you're basically dragging it out smooth. You don't want any high ridges, you're trying to spread it out and feather it out. Once you get it to that point, you're going to take your heat gun. In this case, because it's such a large area, we'll use the mini heat gun. And just dry it. Sometimes if you're doing this in the heat of the day, it'll dry on its own relatively fast. But you can use your heat gun. You can also use a hair dryer. The thinner the layers, the better for drying what it'll be. So you're going to basically dry that area out. Okay, so now you have the area basically filled. Like I said, there were scratches here. It would fill in all these scratches and keeps the area nice and level. So once we're to that point, and when it's dry, you can lightly sand on it. Make sure it's dry. The idea is to get everything as smooth as possible. Now you have it all smoothed out. If there was no other damage, at this point you would proceed to your color step to color the repair. But we have some damage over here, so that's a little heavier. By filling it with the XR10, we've provided a primer, but now we need something heavier to go over it. So now we move to the XR11. The XR11 is going to be thicker and allow us to fill in the damage. We'll take our palette knife and we'll fill it in. Scrape it level, scrape it level. Take the heat gun. Now you don't need to heat this. This will dry on its own. It's air dry. However, if you take a heat gun or a hair dryer, it'll dry it faster. Continue to build thin layers. Scraping is very thin. That's the key. If you glob it on heavy, you're going to end up with high spots. It's not going to dry right. It's going to come off when you try to sand it. You want thin layers. Build it in thin layers. And dry it again with a hairdryer type heat or a heat gun on low. We're not trying to cook this like a compound. We're just trying to dry it. It'll dry relatively quick. And you'll do this until you can build up a layer, so when you sand this layer down, it'll blend in. Now, we'll dry this one more time and then I'll show you on the XR12. Now the XR12 is going to be a little bit heavier than this XR11, but it's going to be used in exactly the same way. This is a much heavier pasty consistency. It's going to be used in the same way, but it's going to give us a little bit more filling capacity. So now you can see it's going to fill in a little bit better. Again, we're going in thin layers. Down, scrape. Down, scrape. If you get it too heavy, you'll know it because as soon as you sand it, it's going to start to roll and lift on you because it didn't dry properly. It has to be thin layers to dry properly. Once you have that filled and dried, we want to take our chill bar and we want to cool it. We want it to be cool because if it's hot, it still can roll when you start to sand on it. So you want it to be cool. The idea is to keep the surface smooth and level for when you paint over it so you don't see it. So essentially you're filling it in. It's very similar to bondoing a car. Same kind of a process. You're going to fill it in. Scrape it level, sand it smooth. Fill it in, scrape it level, sand it smooth until everything is smooth and level. You don't want to feel any edges. That should feel smooth. Okay. When I run my hand over it, it's nice and smooth, okay? At this point, I would be ready for paint. First, we'd mix our color. We'd rub the first color in, and we're going to show you that in a later video. We'll rub the color in, and then we can either spray it or continue to wipe it on to blend out the repair. So the idea is to fill the repair with the air dry fillers, especially on leather. The only time we use heat cures on leather is if there's a hole in the leather. But if not, if it's just a crack or a fine scratch, we'll use these air dries. They're super strong, they're sandable, very durable. Again, thin layers, I can't stress that enough, has to be a thin layer. You glob it on, you're gonna have a problem. Thin layers, sand it smooth. If you need to, go to the next level. So you start out with XR10, work it into the surface like we did. Then you might need to go to XR11 because it needs a little bit better fill. Or you may have to go straight to 12 if it's a deep gouge. But again, it's thin layers no matter which one of the air dry products you're going to use.